Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Awesome My Life. Love you and cause I love you so much. Oh, 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 I just love you. I just like help. I just like help. I just like you too. I just like you. I just love you.
Well, thank you, Ariana. That was our great friend in the great state of Minnesota singing for us. Oh, Ron's joining us too.
Oh, perfect.
So good afternoon. It's good to hear your voice.
Hi. So right before we started, you were asking if I am ready for Thanksgiving, and the answer is kind of. I don't host, which is very lovely. I have never hosted Thanksgiving, and I am okay with that. My mom.
But you are the hostess with the mostest.
No, not even close. I would probably, I don't know, it would go one of two ways. Either I would get real stressed out about it and just order something and, order Thanksgiving dinner and have it delivered. Or I would have the bandwidth to actually do it, and in that case, I'm sure I would go all out and really enjoy it. But at this point in my life, the likelihood of me just ordering an entire pre-made Thanksgiving dinner is very high. So my mom still hosts.
Beth, I would just like to take this moment, both on myself and Linda, to wish you the warmest, blessed Thanksgiving, and we continue blessings through the whole year. And we're so grateful that you came into our lives, and we love you, and we look forward to having you back in town. So you have a great holiday, and we'll look forward. Even though you're not, Linda's never. She's only cooked one turkey in her life, so and we. This is the story, but I just want to say hi. Thanks.
And this year's chicken for you guys, right?
Yes. Well, there's four of us. To me, even a small turkey, and Ron really doesn't like turkey, so we're doing a very wonderful-looking plump chicken, I should say, and all the fixings. I have cooked a turkey once, and it was. For some odd reason, it was the year that Ron had his stroke and I had my breast surgery. Of all the years, that was the year that we actually did it. And I don't really remember it, although I do have a picture of the table, so I know I actually did it once.
You can prove that it happened.
Proof that it happened, yeah. So it would be fun.
My contribution, I typically make rolls. But this year I'm making a pie and a loaf of sourdough bread. And that is it.
Well, usually in past years we've always gone to my mom's younger sisters, and then my niece took over for a couple of years, but. Things change, and they're away, and so to me it's like, and Ron's sister and her husband their kids are going away for the weekend, so they were going to go out to dinner, and I said, no, just come over here, let's cook a great meal together, which is what we're going to do. So.
Well, and that's the thing, is that Thanksgiving ends up so deeply rooted in into these sort of expectations of which foods will be there and, how much food is made and things like that. And I like what you guys did in terms of remembering, what it's actually about. And that's spending time with family, be it blood relations or the ones that you acquire along the way, right? And spending time together and creating memories and socializing and remembering what you're thankful for.
Right.
So that attitude of gratitude, as my daughter likes to say. They learned some sort of song and music class, and so now that's become a thing in our house.
Yeah, definitely.
But that's more important. Remembering the why, right? And it helps to release a lot of expectations, I feel like, that come up in terms of like, oh, well, we have to have this exact dish, or like this person has to be there, or it's not complete. It's like, no, you're going to do whatever works at the time.
Yeah, and it's not like the only time in the whole year you can get together with family. It's one day, and you just always just make the most of. We're just going to have fun. We'll play some cards. It's the same couple that we go. Ron sister and her husband that we spend a week at the Thousand Islands with, and so. And we're going on cruises together. So, it's laid back and fun, which is what I really want. Just something laid back and fun.
We don't do anything big. In years past, we've gone to my parents' house, and it's my parents, myself, and my kids, and it could be on any Thursday. It doesn't need to be that particular day. But we do it on actual Thanksgiving. But we try to make it it's low pressure, and it's more about spending time together than it is about meeting some sort of like expectation of the day.
Right.
Which is
it's
nice.
Fun. Everyone contributes, and you just Ron likes pumpkin pie. I don't. I like mincemeat pie. I don't know if anyone else will, but and then they're bringing dessert also. So it's just
excellent.
It makes it a lot of fun just to get together.
Yeah, there's all kinds of ways to celebrate. And right, this is a big food holiday. We're entering into a big food season, I guess, too, right, with holiday parties. And I feel like a lot of holiday parties have returned. I know a lot of them were gone with COVID and everything, but we seem to have really picked it back up and gotten in the spirit of having all kinds of holiday parties. And so there's always a lot of food, and it's probably stuff you don't usually eat, right? It's all those special occasion foods. Mm-hmm. And so it becomes this time to figure out, like, okay, is this really a special occasion to me, right? So personally, is it a special occasion? Or are you there celebrating somebody else's special occasion and it's not actually special to you? And then really it's practicing moderation, which is something that we're just not great at. But it's practicing that moderation of, like, you're right, you might be looking at a 30-pound turkey on the table, but that doesn't mean you need to eat half of it. Like, you can, in fact, still have, like, an appropriate serving of whatever it is, and, like, not be uncomfortable afterwards. Like, that's the thing, is this isn't saying, like, oh, measure and weigh your portion out if that's what you were doing. It's saying, which is a whole nother set of issues, this is like, how do you approach it? Maybe this isn't the day that you do half of your plate vegetables, like what's usually recommended. Maybe you kind of let it go, but you still are not eating to the point of being uncomfortable, right?
Right.
So
right.
Even if it's not this balanced plate where half of it is your fruits and vegetables and a quarter of it's your protein and a quarter of it's your starch, you're still not like out of a cartoon, like mounding it up, right? So that you have this mountain of food. There is something in between where you take what you want, but not more than you physically need to eat.
Exactly.
And it's not, I don't know. It's that taking the time to figure out why you're actually there. And if you slow down your eating, right, and take the time to talk with the other people at the table, what you'll find is that you can listen to your hunger cues and actually honor them and figure out when you actually start to feel full because you're taking your time getting there. And then you can actually listen to that and honor your body and be, thankful for the things that it can do and lean into that piece of it. So there's a lot to unpack there for sure in terms of how food is approached at any holiday gathering. And then also how other people approach your food intake. Because a lot of people are gathering with family who, for some reason, may feel like they are allowed to comment on your body or on what you're eating, even though they don't have the right to do that. I used to run into this a lot when I was working in the bariatric program, actually, and it was with my people that had lost weight and were at a healthy weight, especially around this time where they were seeing friends and family that they maybe only see like once or twice a year. They would start to get these comments of like, oh, my God, you've lost so much weight, or like, are you sure you're still healthy? You look so skinny. And yeah, like it would swing the other way. And it comes down to, one, it's with like weight loss surgery, it's very drastic weight loss. It's drastic, rapid weight loss. And the same thing we're seeing with like the injectables, with like Ozempic and things like that too, where it's this drastic weight loss. And so it's more noticeable. And you might have some loose skin at first, depending on how much you lost. And that usually retracts a little bit because our skin has some elasticity to it. And so people feel the need to comment for whatever reason. And it's not their place at all to say anything about it. It's between you and your doctor and your dietitian. And so what I used to tell people is that unless you happen to be sitting down at my table or at the doctor's table, no one there gets to say that. And they're still going to anyway, but just recognize that their opinion doesn't matter. So it was a lot of like preemptive reassurance, essentially, because that can really undo somebody's trajectory, right? If they've been working hard at their weight loss and somebody's suddenly telling them that they look sick, then they've got this subconscious message of like, oh, well, now I look sickly. Maybe I am too thin. And they start to pick up things that they shouldn't because they're like, oh, I could probably put on a couple pounds and still be okay. And they start these like negative health behaviors instead of keeping up with their positive ones. And it's, I don't know. I feel like it ranks right up there with like asking somebody their age to me. Yeah. Where like, is it really your business if they lost weight? Like how, especially when you're in big family gatherings where you really don't see people that often, it's like, what if they are sick and don't want to talk about it?
True.
And that's why they've lost weight. Like, there is that. Like, it's not always like, oh, my God, you lost weight. You look so good. It's like, thanks, but I'm also, like, going through cancer treatment. Or, like, all kinds of things. Or like, oh, my God, you've put on so much weight. And it's like, well, yeah, like, I started new medication for my mental health concerns, and so I'm mentally stable. And, yes, you're right. It's made me gain 10 to 15 pounds. Like, is what it is. Right. But mental stability is more important. So, but like that's not necessarily something people want to talk about over family dinner. Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, this is a medication side effect. Or, oh, I'm going under treatment for something, and it's quite frankly, not everybody's business. You're allowed to have personal parts to your life that not everybody knows, even extended family. And that's
exactly.
It's not always an easy boundary.
Right. And there's so many, especially this time of year, you're right, there are so many times that you'll be with people that you don't see all the time, at different holiday parties. It's funny now that I'm retired, I obviously go to fewer parties, but at the same time, you're still around people. And so, it's just, taking care of what you eat and drink, because sometimes that's a trap too. It's like, oh, have whatever drink, have a cocktail. Well, it's like at my parties, I very rarely serve alcohol, but it's I don't want to, but if I'm at somebody else's, you just don't want to be, especially in the Northeast where you get snow coming. I really don't want anyone driving, after having a few drinks at my house. And so I think that's one of my major concerns with serving alcohol at a house party. I'm not against drinking, but it's at the same time, you have that in the back of your mind. But even at home, and you have to, it's so easy. It could be so easy. It's not that easy, but it could be that easy for somebody to overindulge in a drink, and think, oh well, it's the holidays. I can, I don't normally have whatever, and so that's something to watch too. I know we even have to watch eggnog because we like it too much. There's a lot of calories in it, so that's
very
something that
calorie dense. Very calorie dense eggnog, and that's actually something that. So there are some people that I work with right now, and definitely in the past too, that are looking to gain weight. Like that is their current goal, and it's actually extremely difficult and takes a lot of effort. And one of the things that I will recommend, especially this time of year, are eggnog milkshakes. Because it is so incredibly calorie dense. Yeah.
Mom would make, she would make eggnog from scratch, of course, her.
Ooh.
But when we were sick, she would always give us eggnog for some odd reason.
Really?
But it's I can't remember exactly when, but I just remember sometimes. But needing to gain weight is difficult, and there's so many people will say, "Oh, you're so lucky." Well, no, if you have a medical problem that you cannot on, that's just as important to be working on and be careful of than if you needed to lose weight. But yet people kind of accept, oh yes, you have to lose weight, accept that more than somebody who's trying to gain weight, which really isn't fair. But I've had a friend years ago that with her metabolism, she was always losing weight, and she had to keep gaining. And people would just say the coolest things to her, like, oh, you're so lucky. Well, no, not if you have a medical problem. You really aren't lucky,
Yeah, it's usually because of something, right? Either like a ton of exercise and training, or like a metabolic condition or an illness. Like there's usually a reasoning behind it that has to be managed. So it's not, you're right. I think it's more accepted when people say like, oh yeah, I'm trying to lose weight versus, oh yeah, I'm trying to gain weight. And I don't know if it's because it just fits the, I don't know, like the social narrative better, because so many people are now considered overweight or obese. And so it's sort of this universal or almost universal situation of needing to take off a couple pounds to meet, well, there's another set of issues, but like to meet like a BMI standard, which is trash anyway. But maybe one day we'll measure it in terms of body mass and truly look at how many people are overweight and obese based on body mass rather than weight. So the difference would be like this is weight is just telling you how much everything weighs, right? Versus if we were to just look at fat mass, it would be looking at like what % of your body is made up of fat, which is usually done with what's called bioelectric impedance, where it's like it's an electrical current that runs through your body, and depending on how quickly or easily it moves through, it can determine the type of substance that it's moving through, right? How much is bone, how much is muscle, how much is fat. There's other ways to do it too, but that's the most common. And that would be a really cool thing to start doing instead of just weighing people, right? Weight has a time and a place. It's definitely useful, but it's also useful to know what the body fat percentage is instead, or in addition to, I guess I should say. But
yeah, because go ahead.
Oh, I don't think it'll make that much of a difference in terms of seeing like the % of the population that's overweight or obese. But on an individual level, it gives you a much clearer picture of like, okay, well, like what's actually happening, and how healthy are you truly?
Yeah, because I have been losing. It's been over a year. It's not like the ones in the on the TV. That in 6 weeks you'll lose 50 pounds. Well, gosh, I'd be kind of afraid of that. But I have been losing weight, and watching what I eat and doing hopefully all the right things, some of the right things. But I noticed, because I had my checkup the other day, but on this chart it still lists me as obese, and it's like, well, is that going to be permanently in my record from forever and ever? Even though I'm, lost weight and feel much better. So I'll ask them the next time I go, and because I go every 3 months.
Yeah, and sometimes things don't leave your chart. It turns into like history of obesity or like history of diabetes instead. Basically like to tell the story and paint a picture so you know what's happened. So it might kind of still be there, but not fully.
Yeah, but maybe they just word it a little differently.
Yeah,
it would make me happier.
And then you're always limited by the diagnosis codes too, and it depends if there is a diagnosis code that says like history of rather than just obesity.
Yeah.
So there's all kinds of rules. It's wild. And it makes, really at the end of the day, it's more about like being able to track healthcare utilization and billing than it has to do with pretty much anything else.
But around the holidays, one of the things Julie, my nutritionist, was saying yesterday is make sure you're going to a party, still have a healthy breakfast and a lunch. Don't save up all your calories because sometimes you may because I used to think that way. It's like, well, I know I'm going to be eating all kinds of other things, so I'll not eat until then. Well,
no.
Messes up your body that way. So
it's just, I'm somebody that has to eat regularly. I don't do well otherwise. But it's so true. You don't get to save it up for later. That doesn't somehow make it better. You still want to eat. So like for example, we're having Thanksgiving dinner at 5:00, at a pretty normal dinner time. I know some people eat earlier on Thanksgiving, and it's 1 or 2 or something, but
we're having 2
so
o'clock.
I will still have breakfast and lunch, and then I will have Thanksgiving dinner, and then I will have dessert, and then I will bring home leftovers and have Thanksgiving dinner the next day. Right? Because that's the thing, is there's almost always leftovers that you can then just eat it again the next day.
Yes. Yes.
Instead of
somebody thought it was terrible for me not having a big turkey. Well, what about the leftovers? Well, sometimes we eat the leftovers, and but I don't want that many leftovers.
I remember my mother-in-law used to plan the leftovers. So, she would cook way more than what was needed because she found these, Thanksgiving leftover recipes that she wanted to try. So she'd be cooking, and all of this food to have the leftovers to make other things. It was a whole process. It was a huge plan. And it's why do you need 2 turkeys? It's well, we need at least 1 for leftovers.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it was fun. I went over to visit my mom today, and so we were talking about different Thanksgivings, and I don't want her to feel like she's missing something. So we made sure to mention, well, because I checked ahead of time with the people at the the nurses and they said, what are you doing for Thanksgiving? We have a huge, beautiful Thanksgiving. And they do. They always do things so nice there. But it's hard, because the change of tradition, as people get older and as families, one of the receptionists was all upset because her newly married daughter is going to the in-laws for Thanksgiving. Well,
oh boy.
I remember being in that position. It's you have to, I said, well, sometimes you have to share, which I don't know if it's the right thing to say, but at the same time, I've been the newly, 50 years ago, but I remember, being the new bride that, you're torn between going to your parents' house because you always did and going to his parents' house. So.
And that's, yeah. But that's part of, you have to do what's right for your family, right?
Yeah.
And so that might be doing Thanksgiving one year at one family's house and then the next year at the other family's house, or you always do Thanksgiving with this family, but you do Christmas with the other side. I don't know. I know some people get hung up on it and get, like, bent out of shape. But you can also have a family gathering any time of year. Like, it doesn't have to be on Thanksgiving.
Right.
There is that.
Right.
I know what my mom, I don't know if she still does. I don't know. Did we do it last year? I don't know. She used to do, like, a big, like, beef dinner, so some kind of roast, the day after Thanksgiving. And so if we didn't go over on Thanksgiving, we would just go over the next day.
Yeah.
And it was like an equally as elaborate meal as the day before.
Yeah.
So
it's there's family dynamics in any and traditions, but you incorporate new traditions along the way. So, which is part of life, which is really good. The one gal I was talking to, she said, "Oh yes, I said, "Oh, are you ready for Turkey Day?" She said, "We have lasagna," and so I realized, she's from a big Italian family. So to them, their tradition is lasagna, not turkey. So, but that's really kind of cool to have. It's just it's not really the food; it's the getting together and making a nice day for everyone.
Absolutely. It doesn't have to be, and then, going back to, if family is commenting on size or weight gain or loss or what have you, or what you're putting on your plate, the whole, like, are you really going to eat that? Or like, ooh, you're going back for seconds. There's different ways to handle it, and that's something that I've been talking through this week. Well, last week and a little bit this week, is like you can just say yep and move on. Like, you don't have to turn it into a confrontation. You can just kind of acknowledge and move on, especially if it's somebody that you're only going to see once a year. It's probably not worth, obviously weigh this out for yourself, but it's probably not worth making a scene either of, like, just, and, like, just brush them off. You can certainly say, like, that's, my weight between me and my doctor, and kind of just remind them that it's not, gently giving them the reminder that it's not their place because they're not your doctor. Like, my size is between my doctor and I. Right? And if you're going back for more of something, be like, it was really good. Have you tried it? Like, so there are ways to address it gently. It's not saying, like, let everybody make the comment and walk all over you. But there's addressing it gently, not turning it into a like a big confrontation or a big blowout or anything. And then also recognizing that they're, internally knowing for yourself that their opinion doesn't actually matter. It doesn't necessarily always make it hurt less, but it can help you get through it.
Good point.
Because it's going to happen, and especially, like, if it's somebody you see once a year, it's not worth it. And you also have to kind of notice who you're talking to, and, like, it's like, is this person actually going to change what they're doing? Like, is that realistic? Like, they might not be somebody that's in a place to change how they approach people. So it's really you changing what you're in control of, which is your own reaction.
Exactly.
And then especially if it's a big gathering, move to the other side of the room. Find new people to be near. Remove yourself from that particular situation. And handle it. So it can be handled with grace, with still kind of setting a little bit of a boundary. And I know some people do really well with kind of like scripting of like what to be able to say. And so, even, you know, working it through with a friend or a family member or something beforehand of like, hey, this might come up at the party or dinner or whatever, and I just want to try out some different things to say to see what you feel comfortable saying. That can be super helpful too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that you have it ready to go. Because I know, especially for me, like those knee-jerk things to say, like when you're kind of taken aback by somebody's comment, a lot of times I kind of freeze and don't say anything, which isn't necessarily the response that I would want to give if I had thought it through. So kind of thinking through possible...
you think of afterwards.
Yeah. You know, like 30 minutes later, I'm like, wait a minute. So coming up with something beforehand so that you know how you want to approach it really smooths it out, right? You know you're responding from a statement that you made up while you were calm. And so it's more likely to be level-headed, and you'll feel more confident saying it. But, yeah, you know, talking with a friend, family member, the mirror, whatever you need to do to kind of work those out and see what feels comfortable can be super helpful.
And, you know, also by talking to a friend or relative about that, you know that that person will have your back. So, you know, and so you know, even if, you know, Aunt Millie, you know, says something rude, you know, you can just brush it off as like, well, you know, consider the source. And, you know, when we were, where were we? Just recently had a whole bunch of people together, and my one aunt started bringing up politics. And this was before the election. And so I just said, well, how about, and just change the subject, because I did not want to go down a rabbit hole with her, you know. And so, you know, sometimes, and nobody, you know, it just, everyone just picked up on the new topic, and it was good, because it's like, yeah, let's just let that lie and just, you know, keep going in the conversation. But sometimes you have to do that. You just, you know, steer the conversation away from, you know, some, you know, trench, some hole that everyone could fall into.
We want everybody to come away from Thanksgiving dinner in one piece, without needing extra therapy sessions. Like, it's such a time of obligation, right? Of like, well, I have to go. I go every year. It's like, yeah, but do you have to go? Do you really have to go? Like, what happens if you don't go? And it can be eye-opening that way, too, of like, oh, well, I could also choose to, maybe you choose to go to the in-laws because that's the nicer place to go. Like, there is that option.
Yeah. I mean, you know, years ago when, you know, when you just felt, and of course we lived out of town, so when we'd come into town, we'd have to stay with one relative or the other. So so that was always, you know, added to it. But you know, it's one day or it's one weekend, and you know, you can just smile and be nice and realize, think of the things that you're there for, the blessings for it, don't anticipate, you know, a problem, and if there is a problem, just deal with it as best you can, but keep that I don't want to be Pollyanna about it, but at the same time, sometimes you just have to, have that sense of humor that, okay, Uncle Joe always says stuff like that, but, like you said, it's once a year, or even if it isn't, even if you see the relatives a lot and you have problems with it, just let it roll off. And if it gets very intense and you feel like you're losing control and, your go-to is overeating or over-drinking or something, just take a deep breath and a step back, and it's like, I'm not going to let this bother me. It's my mental health is more important than getting my point across or something. So
yeah, and it's not, you can't reach everyone, right?
Exactly.
And that's just the way it is. And it's one of those and isn't it beautiful that we can all have our own opinion? And I've honestly used that in conversation before when I realized I'm never going to get through to this person and we're never going to see eye to eye. My go-to is just and isn't it beautiful that we can all have our own opinion? Because what are they going to say? No?
And you don't have to ask, even if yours is wrong, because that's
yeah, you're allowed to be wrong. But then people get defensive and are like, no, I'm not wrong. And I'm like, but you are. So going to the neutral, right? Of, well, isn't it beautiful? We can all have our own opinion. It's it is, and then they can feel right, and you can know you're right, and everybody moves on.
Right. Now, is there any eating habits that you can think of that do ahead of time? Should you stock up at lunch with or breakfast with a lot more protein, or it wouldn't matter? It doesn't.
Your best bet is to approach all of your meals like a meal still, right? So you would wake up and have a breakfast that's got some protein and some good carbohydrates to it, and same thing, lunch, make sure you're getting in some protein, some fiber, some vegetables, and then turkey dinner is what it is, and you just have a reasonable amount, but it's not. Right, it's really not the time or place to be okay, well, how am I going to adjust my macros to make sure that I can have an extra roll today? Because if it's one day and you're only eating until you're full, you truly can't do that much damage. That's the thing. In the scheme of weight loss. Right. This is a totally different conversation if you're looking at it from an insulin-dependent diabetic standpoint, or somebody with kidney disease and on dialysis. There's all different lenses, but looking at it from just a general healthy eating and weight management perspective, you wouldn't want to cut back or change breakfast and lunch, because then you're sort of developing this mentality of accommodating for less healthy meals, and really if your special occasion meals are only done on special occasions, and special occasions don't happen every day or every week, they aren't frequent enough to impact your success and your journey.
Okay.
Yes, so it's really about having a sensible breakfast and lunch, and then using your moderation at dinner in terms of only eating until you're full. Yeah, rather than trying to kind of offset it and say okay, well, I'm going to have a bunch of carbs at dinner, so no carbs at breakfast or lunch. It doesn't end well.
I was wondering if that would make a...
Yeah, on paper it works, But then in practicality, like if you just try not to have any carbs so that you can eat like 6 rolls at dinner, it's not, you're not going to feel good, I guess. Like you're not, because you're not giving yourself the fuel throughout the day that your body's used to seeing. So it's not, you don't want to do like a give and take and try to like almost like cheat the system by arranging your meals differently. So it's good to try to stay balanced. I would say though, like one of the biggest things that comes out of Thanksgiving or traveling or eating other places, right, is for some reason vegetables are the thing that gets dropped first and people forget to put that into their diet. And my biggest thing would be to make sure somewhere in the day of Thanksgiving or the days that you're traveling, try to get a vegetable in every day.
Yes, we have tons of vegetables. I think we have more vegetables because, like, everyone's favorite vegetable. So we have,
good.
Let's see. Well, we have 2. I love acorn squash. Susie likes Hubbard squash or something like that, and so she's bringing that. We have carrots. We have corn. I realized that we don't have a green vegetable. I'm having a salad because I bought some baby bib lettuce, and so I'm having
green.
a salad. Yeah, that's true. Because my mom being the home ec teacher, you had to have 3 vegetables always, and at least 2 vegetables with every meal.
I love it.
And but what I'm not having, which I traditionally would have, is oh goodness sakes, I can't even think of, not rutabaga. What's it called?
Like a sweet potato or yams?
Turnip. And I love turnip, but I'm looking at it and it's like, just trying to cut that wax off and peel it and cook it and mash it, and it's so I'm not having turnip, mostly because I think I'm the only one that would probably eat it. I don't know if Ron's
Make
family
it a different day then.
Yeah.
But it's, that would be the biggest thing. And it's really more than anything else to make sure that you're still getting in enough fiber. So you're getting in like those vitamins and minerals and stuff, which is great. But like if you're off for a day or 2 with that, you'll self-regulate and you'll be okay. But that fiber component is huge, and it makes a difference in terms of like how bloated you're feeling and how you're digesting your food and things like that. So try to just get in a veggie somewhere, please. It doesn't have to match. It doesn't have to look good. But typically you can find it in the appetizers. Somebody brings the veggie tray and dip.
Yeah.
Usually Thanksgiving dinner is pretty good about having at least a vegetable somewhere in there.
Mm-hmm.
So it can be found. It's just whether or not it's being chosen, really.
Yeah. But it's fun. But again, it's just really, the one day or the one season. It's more of cutting down and watching how many desserts you have and how many goodies you're including. And that's what I find, the limit, because, you'll go to a party and it's like, yes, there's a veggie tray there, but there's also, a whole tray of cupcakes or something. So
yeah, and so we didn't even talk about dessert. And that comes down to, you're gonna have dessert. Like, it is in fact a special occasion. Please have some. But like, if it's a run-of-the-mill thing that you can get any time of year, kind of consider whether or not you really want it. If you do, cool, have some. But there's a difference between having, even a slice or even 2 of pie and eating an entire pie, right? Like,
right.
Even if you got two, even if you have it with ice cream on top, like, it's still not a whole, like, don't eat the whole thing. Still watch the volume. It's really, when it comes to true special occasion things like this, it comes down to the volume. And if it's one of those things, right, where this is the one time a year you have Aunt Mildred's whatever cookie and you're not going to see it again, like, definitely make sure you eat at least one, right? Mm-hmm. Because there is such a social emotional component to food for us as humans, that if you don't have it, you're going to feel like you've deprived yourself. And then that can spiral into like overeating or overindulging in other areas to try to feel like you're like making up for it. So making sure that if something special is happening, you're including yourself and giving yourself that grace to include that.
That's a good point. That's very good point. Yeah.
Versus
because
if it's like,
say, oh, I can't, you just kind of bring yourself down that you can't do anything. And it's like, well, you can. You just have to just be cognizant of it. And I think that's the biggest thing that with me that I have changed is that I'm more aware of what I eat. But also I found out, talking with Julie yesterday, that I'm not drinking enough. And so that, I don't drink coffee or really tea. And so you'll say, how much water have you had today? And I realized I haven't had nearly enough for the time of the day. And so that I have been more aware of. And I think talking to you and listening to the things that the information that you provide makes us more aware of it. Because just like with the protein, like, okay, so I had the Cheerios and fruit for breakfast and I had a salad for lunch. And it's like, okay, what protein have you had yet? Yeah. And I realized I wasn't. But and that's why your show is so important, because you're getting this well-rounded information. Because I thought I was doing perfect what I was doing, but it wasn't, because I was missing that one key factor. And the same thing with drinks. I haven't had enough water. And then she said, well, what are you drinking? Well, I had some cran grape juice, which is very high in sugar.
It is.
Like, thin it down with some water, but also drink more water. And because I've even noticed that I'm, achier, my arthritis in my hands are bothering me more. She says it could be because I think I picked up that bad habit working all these years, that I would just always be at my desk and I wouldn't necessarily get up and get something to drink. So here it is that I've been retired for a year, but I'm still carrying the same bad habit of not stopping and drinking enough. So that's this week's goal, is to just to be aware of it and change it and drink more fluid.
And there's so many ways to go about it to make sure that you're drinking more. Like some people do really well if they get a big cup and know that they have to fill it like 3 times during the day, and then that's going to be enough water. Or some people find that actually what you can do this time of year, well, you don't like tea, but some people find that like drinking like a hot decaf tea or herbal tea, they drink it faster because they want to finish it while it's warm. So they end up drinking more. And as long as it's decaf and doesn't have sugar, like in my eyes, I count that as water. Some people will even count caffeinated things towards their water intake, but I tend not to. Because technically there's still fluid in it. It's just not quite as hydrating as
she was even
as
suggesting
water.
Jello, like sugar-free Jello. She said because it could melt, it's considered a liquid, and
Yep.
have that. And it's actually we like Jello, so we could even do that.
Yep.
So it's just, but now that I'm aware of it, much like the protein, how I wasn't getting enough protein, and that's why it's so important, because sometimes you think you're doing everything right and you're not, and so that's where your show is so beneficial, because it's just these little tweaks that can make such a big difference.
It's true. It doesn't need to be this huge overhaul, and I think that becomes the misconception of like, well, I need to do this big like pantry clean out and a big reset and all this, and it's like, no, you just little changes. Call it habit stacking, where you make a little change, accomplish it, and then add another one, and then another one, and then another one, and then in 6 months you've created this new routine, and it's not overwhelming. It's just what you do. And it actually sticks, and you create lasting change instead of change that only lasts you 2 weeks before life gets in the way and it all falls apart. Because that is, and this is where I sound exactly like my mother, change is the only constant. It's true. Things are constantly changing, and so if you try to do an overhaul and have a perfect plan, you're not going to be successful, because you're always going to be fighting against just the nuances of life.
Mhm.
Who knew? I should have listened to my mom all these years. She doesn't listen to this, so she'll never know.
I just had my cat come in, who is, if you can hear her in the background, apparently starving to death, and it's like I never feed her. She's coming and she hits my leg with her paw, and it's like you have to jump up and feed me immediately.
Demand sustenance.
Oh gosh, she is
well, as we wrap up, because it is almost 1, the best places to find me would be on Instagram at beth_wyman_RD. I try to keep up with it. You can definitely find me in the Optimize My Life Facebook group. Any posts there. There's also the chat specific to this show. I'm always open to ideas, or hey, did you see this? What do you think? And then I'll turn it into a show. I know Mary sends me stuff, so it's always helpful.
She's great. She's great.
And I hope everybody has a wonderful Thanksgiving. And remember what you're actually celebrating. Being thankful.
Amen. Thanks, Beth. Looking forward to hearing from you post-Thanksgiving next week. So with that, we'll say goodbye for today.
All right. Have a good day.
Enjoy. Be thankful. Bye-bye.
Yes.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Wow.